Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, June 5th, 2023. Happy Pride Month. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbian, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV, AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus community and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular broadcast, The FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning program, right here on the Happening Out Television Network. It's Monday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern online or on Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events. She's an animal advocate and owner of Fay's Fur Family, where she believes pets are family. Welcome, Faye.
Hi, everybody. So this is what happened to me today. I took a nap by mistake. I woke up late and I missed the Apple announcement. Did they announce an Apple massager that I so desperately need? No?
Wow.
No?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, what? No. What did they announce?
I don't know either.
David?
Are we being quizzed? Or?
Is this a pop quiz? Apple did this big announcement today about none of you people know.
I was working.
Okay, so I fell asleep and you guys were all at work. All right.
We're at sleep.
Oh.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Before we move on, Gay Days this weekend.
Yes. My God.
You and I are hanging out.
Exhaust. I don't know how you're still standing. You are the biggest partier ever.
Down.
No, but understand, folks, that I don't know how he does it. Where I'm like, look, I'm gonna miss the morning, the beginning drag bingo because I can't. I'm not gonna make it. I'll make it to the pool party after, and then I'll go take a nap, and then I'll meet you at Red after. He goes through it. He'll go through all of them. He's at Miss Gay Days. He's at the pool party at the same time as he's in Girls in Wonderland, the lesbian party. How does Al do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It was.
Do you have a
fun.
stunt double?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about it today.
We will. We will.
Explore.
Next, let's welcome anchor Dr. Julio Capo Jr. Julio is a proud board member of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives in Fort Lauderdale, one of the largest LGBTQ archives in the U.S., and a history professor at Florida International University. He's the author of the book Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940, and an editor and contributor to the Made by History section of the Washington Post. Ooh, big name there. Washington Post. You are fancy. Good evening, Julio.
Hi, mi amor. Hi, everyone. Todo bien? It's good to be here. I was not at Gay Days, and I feel like a monster for it. Yeah. But to be fair, I was seeing Latrice Royale, our homegirl here from South Florida. She ended her tour here, and if you, I mean, it's the end of the tour, so you can't support the tour. But she will be on many others, and it was so powerful.
Her costumes were incredible.
And her story is one, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. Her story is one of love and perseverance.
And jail.
And yeah, and she talks a little bit about that is like, you know, about our second chances. I mean, it was such a from song to jokes. She brought out local guests like Antonio Edwards and Lenora J. They all performed. It was beautiful, and it just felt like this kind of community space.
And we need that right now.
We need so much of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Latrice Royale, for gracing us with your awesomeness. All right, let's welcome anchor Sarah Malega, a successful business owner, community activist, and now city commissioner. Whoop, whoop. As a prolific volunteer, coordinator, and voice for the LGBTQ plus community, she has made her mark. Sarah and her wife, Dawn, opened the City of Lake Worth's first fitness facility, the Zoo Health Club of Lake Worth. SFGN named the Zoo Gym of the Year 4 years in a row for Palm Beach County. That's amazing. Making positive changes, not just in her community, but in people's lives. She has touched through her businesses, her volunteering, and her community involvement. That's the focus of her life. Hey, Sarah, that's amazing.
Thank you. It's great to be here again. It's been a while. No, I wasn't at the party, but now I'm going to have to go because everything you guys said, I need to be at Gay Days.
Girl.
Before I turn the big 5-0, I need to hit it. Good evening, everyone. Let's welcome anchor Pastor Harold Marrero. He is the Safe Schools. I'm sorry, I need to re-say that. I got messed up. He is Safe Schools South Florida's newly appointed COO of Media and Communications. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
As an experienced and compassionate pastor based in Miami, Harold is deeply involved in local spiritual and social endeavors. Additionally, he is currently completing a doctoral degree program at the prestigious Duke University. You go. What? Further enriching his knowledge and understanding of faith-based initiatives and their impact on the diverse communities. Harold is committed to using his unique blend of expertise, compassion, and dedication to make a lasting positive impact on the lives of those he serves. Welcome, Harold. We need you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yay.
Yeah. We are reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, June 5th.
You know, I have to do a little breaking news before we come into the first story to congratulations of Harold, but I've got to break the news before Harold breaks the news. We're getting ready to announce that we're going to launch the first student youth television show in the country with Safe Schools.
Yes, I'm so excited for that.
That's amazing.
It's going to be quite exciting, and it's a dedication from Hotspots Happening Out and Safe Schools to continue to elevate attention on the youth student story of LGBT in South Florida and really all over the state and the country.
That's amazing.
We need more of that.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, we're so excited. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott Galvin. Thank you, Francesca Demore. Thank you. That whole entire crew you have over there is incredible.
We have a great group. We have a great board, and we a great leader with Scott, and and everybody's just so nice to us, and they really want to work with us. So that's amazing. And
you're doing transformative work.
Yeah,
it really
absolutely.
Impactful.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. You're getting ready to hear about it. All right. Well, let's queer up drag culture. A federal judge declares Tennessee's anti-drag law is unconstitutional. A federal judge says Tennessee's first-in-the-nation law designed to place strict limits on drag shows is unconstitutional. The law is both unconstitutionally vague and substantially overbroad and encouraged discriminatory enforcement, according to the ruling late Friday afternoon by the U.S. District Judge Thomas Parker, who was appointed by former President Donald Trump. The law would have banned adult cabaret performances from public property or anywhere minors might be present. Performers who broke the law risk being charged with a misdemeanor or a felony for a repeat offense. Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, a Republican who was one of the law's main sponsors, said he was disappointed with the ruling. Initially, the complaint listed Republican Governor Bill Lee, Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti, and Shelby County District Attorney General Stephen Mulroy as defendants. But the plaintiffs later agreed to dismiss the governor and the top legal chief, although Scimetti continues to represent Mulroy for the case. The governor quickly signed off on the statute, and it was set to take effect on April 1st. However, to date, the law has never been enforced because of the federal judge had sided with the group that challenged the statute in March, and he temporarily blocked the law.
Good for him.
The news is amazingly good. Now, let's, as they say, don't count our chickens before they hatch. But there are many, if you read the tea leaves, you can read some things in these tea leaves. The judge focuses not on the fact of whether it's enforceable in drag. And in fact, one of the interpretations of the law will be that will be a case to come on whether you can enforce the imaging of drag appearance as a constitutional First Amendment right. His focus is that the law is so poorly written, which is very important because it is talking about it being overbroad and vague. Now the reason, and yes it is, and in challenges, we've talked about this repeatedly, it's really hard to imagine that the Supreme Court is not going to sustain this federal judge and the appeals that are going to take place because of what the judge rules on. The other good news here is this is exactly what's going to happen to Florida, because the Hamburger Mary's case is now setting the precedent of the exact same thing, how it affects them in their enforcement of the law or following the law being overly broad and too vague, which is exactly what it is. So they haven't gotten into the issues of your constitutional right to be a drag queen and represented in the general public, but the technical implementation of the law. But it may be enough where the House of Cards, one of the big cards has been pulled away, and everything is going to collapse.
And for Tennessee to start this conversation, right? Like, of all states, you know, I mean, for Tennessee to be at the forefront and say, regardless, right is right, wrong is wrong, and this is the law. You know, that's huge for, I mean, that's a big win for us. But like you said, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited. But I'm excited to see that, you know, that there was a judge who stood up, even though he knew who he was appointed by, and said, we're not there yet. And I don't think we're ever going to be there. You know, they came after municipalities and what we were allowed to do as far as having pride parades. And the reach is it's a broad net that they're casting right now.
And trying to make you fearful.
For
how this was written now, me as a woman, if I dressed like Elvis and then just started shaking my little
I would
hips,
love to see
right?
that.
I know you would. Would that be considered wrong?
Well, I think broadly, the answer is nobody knows what the answer is, because that's the interpretation of genital representation. It could be it could be genital representation either way, and it just depends on who wants to enforce what. Is the answer to your question.
You know, in the 1950s, Miami and Miami Beach had outlawed what was then known as female impersonations. Like that is essentially what we would think of today as drag queens or something similar. And until like 1954, all the laws pertain to female impersonations. So a lot of female dancers and some queer, some not, they kind of poked fun of the law, and they would show up on stage dressed up as men being like, because the law was so sexist that it like essentially forgot that women, right, could also transgress too. And then by 1954, they added male impersonation into the law. So one of the things I'm like suggesting here is that it's a federal judge, right, who made this ruling, and Florida's law is equally ambiguous. It's framed in a way that doesn't even mention drag, right? It's about adult entertainment,
which could lascivious by community standards.
I mean, what on earth does that mean, or what does it not mean? But also, one of the things that I want to just put a little nail is that it could also, this ruling, lead to more precise laws written into the future, right? That is like, if the problem is the ambiguity of the law, they can be more precise. That too would not stand the challenge. I think it's really unlikely, because you can't legislate against being a drag queen, right? Like, I mean, how do you legislate against someone?
Which is really just an art form and it's entertainment.
Of course. It can be a lot of things.
Well, and yet if you look at Hooters or Twin Peaks, how is that not?
Lascivious or whatever.
They call it sexual entertainment,
that
right?
Is, according to sexual.
According to Jack Johnson, like where he said, victory for those who support exposing children to sexual entertainment.
Yeah.
That is what they call drag.
But yet you can
sexual
take your
entertainment.
5-year-old to Hooters.
Yeah.
And they'll put balloons in his shirt
and that's
like
completely
parade him
acceptable.
around, and that's okay.
We don't want to get too ahead of this. This is why I suggest about reading the tea leaves. But I think all three of you hit the bullseye, because what the bullseye here is, this federal judge is saying this is overly broad and is too vague to be enforceable, so therefore is unconstitutional.
Right.
If they do, as Julio suggests, okay, well, write the law very specifically.
Yep.
They didn't do that in the first place because they don't want the secondary challenge to come, which is that you can't legislate a drag queen, either a
Right.
male or
That's the
female
problem.
presenting.
Right.
They understand the problem.
They understand what the problem is.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They
Right.
knew exactly what they were doing.
Which is why they cast that net so far and wide. Let's see what sticks. Let's see what's
see.
done.
And at least it would stick for a while, right?
Yep.
Like that is like enough for election day or enough for whatever, right?
exactly.
There's an end game here.
The
for
other very encouraging thing to that point is Tennessee has never been able to launch the law.
Right.
We don't know in Florida yet if Florida is going to be able to launch the law, because what happened to the Hyatt Regency and to our house in Orlando Philharmonic will be fundamentally affected by what Hamburger Mary's has done to provide the federal challenge. They skipped over the state courts
Which
to
was
go
smart.
directly to federal court and say, please place a stay on this, like what they did in Tennessee. And there's very good indication that that's what a federal judge is going to do. So this is really good news. Just don't count your chickens before.
Don't throw the party yet.
Right. Exactly.
All right, next, let's queer up business. Fox News spends hours on Target's Pride merch and seconds on church child sex abuse scandal.
It's just a very magical thing.
And do women want men shopping in the women's clothing department? Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
We're at Target right now, and there's a lot of controversy going on about all of the Pride stuff that's coming out with kids' clothes. Okay, this is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have "Glad You Came Out" and "I'm so happy that you're queer" in the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence. Tuck-friendly construction. They're giving it to your kids.
Oh, and it gets worse. Target hired a Satanist to put together their Pride line. So if you go on the page, what you see are things like "Satan loves you and respects who you are. He's a symbol of passion, pride, and liberty." Oh, and Satan respects pronouns. So if you want little Johnny wearing a Satan respects pronouns shirt over his tuckum swimsuit, check out your local Target. It's just a weird thing to sell. But if you look around, that's all we're being sold. If you're a fan of the LA Dodgers, get ready for some dingers, because Dodgers are hosting a Pride Night. Now, ball clubs have hosted Pride Nights before, but the one at Dodger Stadium's special. Dudes dressed up as nuns might be throwing out the first pitch.
A new report from media watchdog group Media Matters revealed that Fox News dedicated more than 2 hours of hysterical coverage on the backlash to Target's Pride Month displays, while running less than a half-minute of coverage on a new bombshell report detailing sex abuse in the Catholic Church in Illinois. According to the report, the right-wing TV network spent 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 32 seconds covering the Target backlash between May 23rd and May 30th. Coverage which included multiple Fox correspondents expressing outrage that Target would expose children to clothing with positive messages about the LGBTQ+ community. Fox devoted just 22 seconds of airtime to cover findings of an investigation conducted by the Illinois Attorney General's office accusing 451 clergy members from the Illinois Catholic Church of abusing nearly 2,000 children in the state over a period spanning nearly 70 years. Those figures are significantly higher than the 103 individuals previously acknowledged by the church when the state's review began in 2018. The repeated targeting of pro-LGBTQ+ products and sentiments, thinly veiled as defenses of children's innocence, fit into Fox and right-wing media's larger homophobic campaign to conflate the LGBTQ plus community with grooming and child abuse. I mean, all right, I don't even know where to begin. So, I mean,
Start unpacking, Julio.
there's a lot to unpack here. Let's get la maleta and like start like our suitcase and start like because I mean, I guess I just want to start with watching that video and was bonkers. Like that is like, I mean, it was hard to even. I don't know how people are able to watch that, and I mean, and part of the problem here, right, is that's not news, right? That's some kind of entertainment, it's rhetoric, it's propaganda. Yeah. It's meant to be sensational and not factual, and you know, it's not all the news that's fit to print, like or something, right? It's really something else. I'm really also just really perturbed, obviously, if not the amount of the discrepancy here by something that is actually very clearly affecting children, the disregard for understanding the violence on children, and not wanting to investigate that in any way to understand that, and that's not it's a disservice to all of us, right? Absolutely. And it's of course against what the fourth estate, that is the media, is supposed to be doing. Like this is not. There's just like a grievance after grievance, and I mean that video of the woman in Target or something. Yeah, I mean she's entitled to have that opinion. Don't purchase that, right? Like that is, you know,
or don't go into the section.
Don't go into the section, right? Like I mean, there are children who may want those, right? Like who may very much want that product. Yeah. Right. You as a consumer have a perfectly legitimate right to not purchase it, right? To not support Target, not to claim that this is a form of child pedophilia or grooming or anything else.
Yeah. But look, Julio, look at how many times we've said the word Target. Look at how much free advertisement they've gotten out of it. Yeah. So it makes you think, did they push this propaganda? Did they push Fox News into covering it for so long? Because this is just free coverage. This is free advertisement for them. Yeah. You know, you're telling all those people who are the extreme right wings, come to Target and spend your money here. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to look at it both ways. It's all about money. It's all about business. But you know, it's an attack on us. But at the end of the day, like you said, the bigger reason is why aren't they talking about what's important? Right. The children who have been attacked.
I ask broadly, you know, allow me to challenge Fox News's presentation.
Please do.
Product.
That's an affront to all of us.
We right? Well, and they're clearly not. You know, in the immortal words of Donald Trump, they're fake news. But do we think that this kind of product should be in Target and should be accessible? Some of the tucking products that they sold.
That was not in the baby's part.
Well, I know, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But just broadly, do you think it was a good decision of Target to incorporate Pride merchandise like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And why? Why do you think that?
Well, as a business owner, I want to be welcoming to all. You know, I don't want to offend or not include anyone who may come into my business. So Target, being a corporation, they see what's happening. Like, look at the beer front, right? Like, get out there and be supportive. Absolute's been one of our biggest supporters in our community since before I came out. So we've always had those corporations that have come forward, right? So Target thought, let's just push the envelope and see if we can get into this market. And they decided, you know what? The backlash for them was too real because we have TikTok and Twitter and all those things. 15 years ago, this would have never happened because we didn't have that social media. So they didn't have that instant gratification of being
Let's assume for a moment, generally everybody at the table agrees with that opinion. Let's just assume that that's the case. There is a significant, careful on defining significant. There is a reasonable number of people in the LGBTQ community that feel like we've gone too far, and this is an example of how we've gone too far, and therefore, if we wouldn't do this, they would like us better, or we would be under less attack. What do you think about that observation of some people?
Then the bullying worked. Then the bullying worked, and they got exactly what they wanted. Al, this evolution of our community has to continue to evolve, and we need to continue to evolve with it. No, I was, you know how happy I was over Target. You know, I love that they had trans merchandise. That was something that they didn't have last year, and it was so inclusive. To be that LGBTQ plus youth and see themselves in a T-shirt at Target was so huge that no, I didn't think that they should bring it back or lay low or be quiet till 4th of July. Yeah, you know, which is why I won't shop at Target from now on. I just won't.
Yeah, and we can't continue to put, you know, the T in the LGBTQ plus back into a closet because we don't like, you know, what whatever feelings they might stir up in people that don't like us to begin with.
Or they don't understand.
Or they don't understand, yes.
Well,
and even in the LGBTQ plus community or the queer community, yes, the trans community might be a small percentage of who we are, but they need to be well represented and well seen, because in how we treat the least of these in our community is how we're treating each other.
Absolutely.
So we have to continually to bring them up, showcase them, and have the same representations that we want. They should also have everywhere across the board, no matter where.
We should have their back. I mean, we should. The bottom line is we need to. I don't want to say be out loud and proud, but why should we have to restrain from celebrating who we are?
Right.
We don't ask anyone else, any other community, to do that. That would be like saying don't celebrate Juneteenth. It's going to offend people.
Yeah.
You can't
make
do
people
that.
uncomfortable.
And it's not hurting anyone.
It's not
right?
hurting
Like that
anyone.
is like that's the.
We get to that's the soundbite on the issue. The other thing that I think is interesting, Harold, you're a pastor. They conflate this idea that this kind of merchandise associates LGBT with grooming, and that's ultimately what they're trying to associate.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when Fox is spending 2.5 hours selling this story, 2,000 children are actually groomed to abusive levels, and they spend 22 seconds on it.
By the church.
But here's the thing, many people continue to, when they see gay, all they see is sex.
Yep.
Even as when you're a child, like children that come out, the first thing that, or even as an adult, when you come out, the first thing people sometimes ask you is like, well, how does that work? How do you two have sex? Like, how is any of that possible? And you have to ask yourself, like, why is there this obsession with sex when it comes to everything LGBTQ+?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So when they see a pride in a child T-shirt, they're not seeing that the child wants to just celebrate their gay, mom, dad, whatever, their new queer family. They're seeing, oh, that child is associated with something that is sexual, and that's just not true. And then they don't. And then the fact that they don't talk about, the abuse that has happened in the Catholic Church is crazy, because that is actually affecting kids in a sexual manner. There's a power, control, and play there that those kids are going to be affected forever, and the trauma that is put on them is unacceptable. That has to be done by the church.
And it can be generational.
It is. It will be
generational. Children will be generational.
It gets passed down.
Exactly. To their families.
It's also red meat, though. It's bait, right? Like that is like, and it's been an effective form for the right for a long time. They just throw, whether it's Anita Bryan or with HIV/AIDS, or even before with the Johns Committee. They know that if they throw children into the conversation, that suddenly it's manipulative, right? Like that is like, because it shuts down the conversation.
There's one last point before we move on to Faye that I think is incredibly dangerous, and Julio makes the point of something at the time of Anita Bryan or the Johns Committee or the examples that Julio gave, which are similar actions today, but something new is happening, and a very dangerous portion of this story, and that is the creation of artificial intelligence. The story connection about the Satanists was completely rejected as being fake. It was an artificial intelligence imaging that was created, and Fox repeats it as fact. And they repeat it and repeat it and repeat it as fact, and then when they're caught, wait, this was created by artificial intelligence, it's absolutely not true. Or the issue of showing products at Target that absolutely never existed, but created by artificial intelligence. It takes so long to stop the AI of going, this is not true. And then Fox gives the 22 seconds of going, oh, we reported on such and such, and it turns out not to be true. Now, next. But they spent 2.5 hours over the course of a week pounding.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's why journalism and the integrity of journalism is gone, right?
Yeah.
That level of integrity that goes with journalism and really caring about the news and reporting it the right way, that's gone. Those days are gone.
But the thing is, like, even if it was produced or made by someone that is a Satanist, like in this country, that's okay. Like you're allowed to work as a Satanist in whatever you want to do. Yep. So I don't know.
Also, I don't want to. I won't belabor. Common sense would have told you, right, that this is not a real story, right? That Satanists are not like, I don't know, outside, like doing spells on your children. That's the thing, is like common sense is not common, and it's relative, and I will shut up.
Yeah. We can only hope Fox News will do the same thing.
All right.
Next, let's queer up travel. Walt Disney World challenges DeSantis with 100,000 gays at Gay Days. Tens of thousands of LGBTQ plus people flocked to Central Florida last weekend to go on theme park rides, mingle with costume performers, dance at all-night parties, and lounge poolside at hotels during Gay Days, a decades-long tradition. A large turnout sent the message that LGBTQ plus people aren't going away in Florida, which is continually one of the most popular states for tourists to visit. Annually, 150,000 or more visitors come to the half week of pool parties, drag bingo, and thrill rides at Orlando's theme parks and hotels. Joseph Clark, CEO of Gay Days, Inc., said, quote, "That's the point," end quote. Even though Governor Ron DeSantis and Florida lawmakers have championed a slew of anti-LGBTQ plus laws, spurring the most prominent gay rights groups in the U.S. and other civil rights organizations to issue warnings that the Sunshine State may no longer be safe. Gay Days organizers are still encouraging visitors from around the world to come to one of Florida's largest gay and lesbian celebrations. Unlike most of the country, which celebrates Pride in June, Orlando holds its Pride in October. Gay Days is a bonus celebration. Currently, Disney is embroiled in a legal fight with DeSantis over the governor and Republican lawmakers' takeover of Disney World's governing district after Disney officials publicly opposed legislation that critics have dubbed "Don't Say Gay." This weekend was exceptional, people, okay? It was a lot of fun. There was thousands and thousands of LGBTQ plus people being their true authentic selves, having a ball, okay? And for a moment and for a weekend in time, we stopped thinking about how much hate was against us, but it was in the room. Like you felt it and everybody talked about it regardless, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, it was one of those things where there was people putting out videos telling people not to come, telling people that it wasn't safe. And I was like, oh no, please. I got on my TikTok and did the same thing for Girls in Wonderland. It's safe. Look around. They had cops everywhere. They had undercover cops everywhere. I felt safe. Okay, at all the parties, at all the theme parks at Disney, I felt safe. I didn't feel like anything was going to happen or there was a threat to us, you know? And it was just such a loving, wonderful environment.
But that's how Walt Disney World's supposed to be. That's what Orlando's supposed to be. You're supposed to, it's the happiest place in the world, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. So, you know, I want to say thank you to everybody who did go.
Yes.
And thank you for contributing to the legal fees that they're going to have.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately what we need to do, right? Make sure that Disney has the support to fight this bad legislation.
And you know, it's not just about, like, I love how you said you felt safe because that's obviously so important, but also you felt in community. Like, I mean, how important that is, and that helps you feel safe because, like, we're stronger together. And I don't want to be super obnoxious about this, but I have never loved Disney more. Like, I mean, all this has only made me like, you know how there's like a term for Disney gays. Like, I want, this is 100% true. I didn't know that was a thing. And then one time I went to a friend's house and from their entire house was just decorated in Disney stuff, like from the curtains. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was going to get murdered, but I was not murdered. But like, that's a thing. And I get it. Like, that is like, cause there's something about the message of love, about acceptance, which is actually rooted in so much. And I get this is corporatism. I'm not like, like lost to what this means and for profit, but also they are taking an important stand, and I think they might help be the downfall of the DeSantis-ness of Florida, because there's something real. I think this case is going to be huge. So
you know, when you
can
buy a shirt at Disney, now this is not artificial intelligence fake news. When you can buy a shirt at a Disney outlet as a red shirt to prepare for Saturday's Red Shirt Day at Walt Disney World, or you could wear it any of the parks in the schedule rotation that they did, that says what we think, using the Disney logo as official merchandise, think about gays, and then a big love sign. And they're selling a shirt that says that. Okay, there's rainbow capitalism, but
for sure,
in this moment, they don't need the $12 that they make on the shirt.
It was $28, but no problem.
Right.
Plus tax.
$28 plus the tax. That wasn't the point of it. In the environment of what Disney is going through, they made a solid statement. A couple of things let's talk about on Gay Days. We gotta get some, as they say, the roses out early. Faye hosted at Girls in Wonderland, the pool party. Last year I went and said my favorite party was the Saturday pool party down at Kissimmee.
You like the go-go dancers a little too much. It was weird.
It was a little weird last year. They moved up to International Drive to the Wyndham, which was an old Gay Days hotel platform, which was absolutely fabulous. And let me just say, in terms of the overall Gay Days weekend, girls for the win.
Right.
Not just the party, girls for the win.
amazing.
Because I went 3 times, and every single time the place, Allison Burgos and Girls in Wonderland, my
A
goodness.
sea of lesbos.
and people having so much fun. I mean, it was just exuberance. And Faye hosted a comedy show that a huge crowd turned out for, and it was funny. Who would have thought the girls could be fun?
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And Faye hosting it, and that was amazing. Wednesday night I went on the Wednesday night I for the first time went on the gay monorail pub crawl. And they start and they go hotel and bar to bar.
Bob Heschel's one of the leaders or something.
Exactly.
I love that.
And did that, and that was so much fun. And overall, I just have to say, OMW down at Lake Buena Vista, they launched the Bears event. Faye stayed at the Bears Hotel.
Where else would I stay?
She was like a salmon amongst the bears.
That was me. Un pescadito.
No, you could give it a different analogy for that.
A salmon among the bears. I'm going to think about it. That's really horrifying.
That is
if I think
horrifying,
about
yes.
it.
That's why every time they saw me down the hallway, they'd go, fish, fish.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant like
Really?
pawing.
I thought that's what you meant.
I totally thought that's where you were going, yes.
Dressed kind of in salmon color. Not
And
really. I don't know.
Gay Days, after 2 years of pandemic, the loss of the hotel the year before pandemic, having to move from June to August, and that debacle, came back to the DoubleTree, which is the iconic platform. Of all of the hotel platforms, it's the iconic platform. It was back this year. It allowed you to go, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So congratulations to everyone.
Yeah, well done.
Can I just say one last thing that for Girls in Wonderland, it was a wonderful thing to see all these women, right? But it was also a chance to invite our trans women to come and join us also. And then that was such a wonderful thing, to give them a safe space, to let them know, hey, this is all inclusive, right? Come on in and join us and have a great time. One last thing is also that, yes, we had pool parties. Yes, we had drag bingo. Yes, we had Miss Gay Days. But also we had a lot of children that came out for Disney. Julian's Fountain of Youth took a whole crew
That's amazing.
of LGBTQ plus
Called
youth.
one fabulous weekend.
And they had a fabulous weekend. And that was what it was all about. To go to Disney and see, I'm getting chills, to see all these red shirts, and you're a part of those red shirts, was the first time that I felt a part of anything in this community.
Actually, funny that you say that, because I interviewed Julian today for Unapologetically Queer, and he tells me the story. 21 kids went to Disney with 9 chaperones.
That's awesome.
And they stayed at All Star on property Friday night and Saturday night for Gay Days weekend. And he said, as young as 14, all children, to go to Walt Disney World on Red Shirt Saturday, and a sea of thousands and thousands of LGBT, and him telling the story of what it was like for these kids to see thousands of LGBT in a positive way, celebrating at the happiest place on planet Earth. He got chills in the conversation.
Well, because ultimately they're seeing themselves, and they see that they're not alone. That there's more of us and that we are together, right? But good for Walt Disney World for supporting our community and supporting their employees versus the other corporation we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you were LGBTQ and you worked for that corporation?
And
what they're doing versus working for Walt Disney World, knowing that they've got your back.
One more time, OMW, Gay Days, Girls in Wonderland, Bears Jamboree, Disney Bears. Congratulations.
Disney Bears. I love that. Disney Bears.
Right.
That's the new hashtag. All right. Up next, let's queer up education. California governor slams school board president who called Harvey Milk a pedophile. California Governor Gavin Newsom has condemned an offensive statement from an ignorant school board president who has called Harvey Milk a pedophile during a book ban debate. The bigoted remark occurred when the Temecula Valley School Board in California voted to reject a social studies textbook with supplemental materials that contained information about Harvey Milk, who was the first openly gay man to be elected to public office in the state and a pioneering LGBTQ rights activist. The school board voted 3-2 on May 16 to reject the books, but it only began receiving attention this week after local news outlets reported on the members' remarks. During the vote, 2 of the members of the school board said they opposed any mention of milk in the textbook supplemental material and made the accusation that the LGBTQ plus rights icon was a pedophile. Another member who voted against the inclusive book denounced the discussion of LGBTQ plus people in a book meant for students in kindergarten through 5th grade. Temecula Valley School Board President Dr. Joseph Komrosky was among those who voted against the materials and made the bigoted accusations against Milk. Harvey Milk made history as the first openly gay man in the U.S. to be elected to public office when he was voted onto San Francisco's Board of City Supervisors in 1977. I was only 2, so I'm really glad that there were people that gone before us to do this. But Temecula is actually a really positive LGBTQ community. So I was shocked when I read this story.
Yeah.
I mean, Temecula it's not known for not being open and accepting. So to see your school board having this, even having the conversation, it shocked me.
Yeah, but this is the play that they want to do, which is they get into the school board and they try to derail education.
For liberty.
Yeah, education. But the crazy thing is like, okay, maybe this could have worked in the past, but with the amount of access that everyone has to knowledge, information,
the internet,
it's not going to work anymore. You're playing this old book that it's like get over yourself.
What old white men do.
Exactly. Yes.
Old straight white men. Yes, but it's sad.
Thank you for that.
Yes, not just old straight men. But in California, where he's from, Harvey Milk, this is his state.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to turn your back on and bring up these things on a man who literally made history.
He died literally fighting for our rights.
Right.
Okay? And you're going to call him a pedophile and try to get, I don't know why you're a big fan of Temecula. I've been there. There was not much going on.
I'm not a big fan, but I was like,
why are we even talking about this freaking city?
I didn't say I was a big fan, but they are an inclusive city.
You don't want to go, you're not missing shit, Julio. Go to San Francisco. You'll be fine. All right?
Yeah. Oh, there I've been.
Go to Monterey.
I was lost. I was there. There's so much to say about this because it's. I feel like these things are so complicated but that is the scrutiny that has always been placed on LGBTQ people, like people of color, like people who are living on the margins, who have always been historically erased from our textbooks, our history. If we were to give anywhere near that same scrutiny to any one of the other people who also exist in our history books, we will find that people are not always what you want them to be at all times, right? That people are a lot of different things. Are human, right? Mm-hmm. And that things are complicated and nuanced and not black and white. Like that is like, so that's not what, to call him a pedophile is not an accurate statement. Like that is like, that's really important for people to know. It's however,
the antithesis.
It's the antithesis, right? Like, and to kind of find space for people who exist in a number of different ways. This is not how history is going to remember Harvey Milk, and we have to make sure that this is not how history remembers.
Well, come on, think about it. We still celebrate Christopher Columbus Day, right? We still have that day off and all that crap, and it's like, really? We're having this day off? Today is now it's National Indigenous Day, where it should be.
Our presidents were slave owners.
But
that is woke queer theory. We don't have that.
And you know what? I am woke queer theory. Right. Like that is like, because I believe in equality and I believe in representation, and if that makes me a woke queer theorist,
then you are.
Amen, sister.
Own it.
Own it. I'm going to just get fired, just to be clear.
You'll never be on this show again, by the way.
You have to believe in science, and you have to believe in education, and there are a lot of people that do not.
Right.
And that's really at the heart of what is happening here. What's surprising is Dr. Joseph Komrosky shows, first off, that having a doctor in front of your name is not everything, because you don't have to embrace science or education to have the doctor on your name. You have to earn it, and then you have to keep it. First.
We still want you to keep going, though.
Yes.
And to the community of Temecula, one of the few places in California I haven't been, but if I was a resident of Temecula, I would be humiliated. I would be humiliated at this conversation that's going on, that a group of gay voices in Florida are saying, what is going on in Temecula, California? Because unless that mayor stands up, unless the city commission stands up, unless other school board members stands up and says this is unequivocally rejected in ignorance, And this is the same kind of thing that we saw in the 1950s in Alabama. And we are not going to do that in religious circles. We're not going to do it in queer circles. We're not going to do it in race circles. We're not going to deal with it in misogyny circles. We are not going to accept it. You are completely rejected. I'm sure that's what's coming next in Temecula, California. We'll sit and wait.
Patiently.
And hear what you have to say. The one other thing that is really distressing about this story is Harvey Milk has an Academy Award winning film. Now he's been, we're talking about 50 plus years since his murder, and he has been scrutinized and scrutinized and scrutinized and scrutinized. And as far as I have awareness of, there is no allegation that he is a child abuser, which is what pedophilia is a representation.
But it sells it better, right? Like by putting that label on it.
Very strategic.
Again, it's all about kids. When you bring kids into the picture.
The strategy here is to use the word pedophile, not because there's any truth to it, but to destroy the existence of the person. I am going to destroy Harvey Milk's existence.
And it puts a level of fear.
Dr. Joseph Komrosky, we understand what you're doing. You are designing a rejection of a whole class of people that you want to destroy their mere existence. And the way you're going to do that is to suggest they're pedophiles. We know exactly what you're doing.
We know.
The question is whether the good people of Temecula, California will completely and unequivocally reject it. We'll see.
Can I add, the historian in me wants to just say something really nerdy, but I feel like he never gets talked about. But the person who was the first openly gay person, he did not win the election, which is why this story is obviously accurate. But his name was Jose Julio Sarria, and he was a Latino man who ran also for that position a decade prior. Check him out. His story is super powerful. Colombian guy.
Oh, wow.
And his story is so powerful. He became really big in kind of drag culture and elevating lots of voices. His story is so important, and there should be a book about him too that will not be banned.
Well, you should write it.
Well, okay, maybe.
Welcome
Next.
to Fairyland too.
Well, next, let's queer up the worldview. New study shows 10% of adults in the world are LGBTQ+. A global survey conducted by Ipsos found that the number of adults who identify as LGBTQ+ is now 9%. From February 7th to March 13th, Ipsos surveyed over 22,000 adults across 30 countries, including Portugal, the Netherlands, Turkey, and Brazil. Brazil had the highest percentage of LGBTQ+ adults around the world, about 15%, which does not surprise me at all. And followed by that, Peru and Japan had the lowest at 4% of adults surveyed. On average, of 3% identified themselves as gay or lesbian, 4% as bisexual, 1% as asexual, and 1% as pansexual or omnisexual. Gen Z respondents were 2 times more likely to identify as LGBTQ+ than their millennial counterparts, and 4 times more likely when compared with Gen Xers and Boomers. The United States matches the world average with 9% of the population identifying as LGBTQ+. This represents a 1-point percentage drop since 2021, according to the survey. When it comes to the gender identity, 1% of the surveyed adults describe themselves as transgendered, another 1% identified as non-binary, gender fluid, or gender non-conforming, and 1% identified as other than male or female. In this area too, Gen Zers were more likely to identify as one of these categories than older adults. I mean, this story is awesome, and it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that, I'm a big... I love quantum physics and, the whole quantum theory.
I've never heard anybody say that out loud.
I do. I love it. I live for it. Okay.
That's his new hashtag.
Yes.
I used to watch Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap, yes.
Same
That's
thing.
Like, yeah,
Thing.
we're playing in the same realm. But in the quantum realm, there's this whole thing about that everything's on a curve. Everything is on based on, you have the 2 extremes and you have everything in between. And I do feel like sexuality and gender expression and all that is all in the middle, like we're everything, everywhere, all at once when it comes to that, and how it expresses in us is I think that there's a correlation between how accepting society is to how you are expressing yourself. Because the more accepting society becomes, the more you feel free to express who you truly are, who you are always going to be, and if you're in a space that is welcoming and affirming and you can see trans representation at Target, that makes you more willing to say, oh, you know what? I'm trans, or I'm gay, or I'm a lesbian, or I'm anything in between of that, and that is okay.
I'm going to shine bright.
I'm going to shine bright and make sure that others know. Yeah.
Yeah, but this 10% is high though, and I really truly believe in my heart of hearts that it's way higher than that is.
Yes.
Of course, we've got a lot of people that just because of their livelihood or for other reasons, they can't be out and proud like we are. That's why we're out for those people, right? So I really do believe that percentage is way higher, right? And I loved exactly how excited you got when it was Brazil. You were like, yeah, I think that number is way higher there, But that spectrum that you speak about, Pastor Harold, is true. Like everyone's in the middle somewhere. It's kind of like it's like you could be fluid, you could be pansexual, you could just love whatever it is, and there's like this certain gauge that you fall under. But it's impossible to really put yourself in a box.
Right.
I agree with both of you. However, the number of the people that they interviewed, 22,000. I'm like, out of the world? Like that's
I know. Out of 8 billion people?
That's a random number, 22,500.
That is a good sample number.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a little astounded. I'm like, okay, that seems very small to me.
For the world.
For the world.
They were all in Temecula.
Yeah.
They were all,
or Orlando. Temecula and Orlando.
If you've ever heard that ratio, like 1 in 10, like if you've ever heard, that actually came from a misreading of the Kinsey reports, like in 1948 when they did the male. A misreading. Because like the whole argument of they did a study on male sexual behavior that was published in 1948, and then 5 years later on women's was published in 1953. And the Kinsey reports by Alfred Kinsey, who himself was queer, it was, the argument about it was that it's on a spectrum. Like that was the argument, that it exists in a spectrum. So to identify it is almost impossible because it fluctuates and it depends on a number of different things, and it's a construct depending on the time of history or circumstance or all these things, right? But to kind of look at this number, it sounds like 1 in 10. So like,
let's see, the 1 in 10, the 1 in 10 was big when I came out 30 years ago.
Right.
It was 1 in 10. So I just feel sad that it's not 2 of 10 now. Like that's my.
It is.
I'm more prayerful that people are more comfortable with who they are, like you were saying, Pastor, to be their authentic self. Right. But I think it's being able to verbalize it and to vocalize it and to own it.
For sure.
I'm going to make an argument, bold statement. I'm going to make an argument.
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
In 2023, this may be the most important single moment for LGBT, this survey, and the others that are going to prove that this is accurate. And the reason is first, the reason you can't come to the conclusion beyond what generally over the last 2 or 3 decades we have done is because it has to do with sex. If it was going to have something to do with your eye color or your race based on skin, we would have absolutely no problem coming to the factual conclusion on it. We can't do that here and get acceptance because it is about sex. We don't want to know what the conclusion is. And the reason is because those people that establish how we think about sex, certainly in Puritan America, is based on those that are in power, which are principally older white men, and Christian evangelicals who are white. And so they shame sex to the point where we're not going to find out this. And the reason is they don't want to find out this. This is why they manage it. Head in the sand, because they know it's already true. But if this widely gets accepted, it has the effect of how people vote, of what people run, and how power and money is accepted in society. To that proof of that observation, there's a couple of things that I think are super important in this study. When I first read it, I read it very extensively. Brazil, 15%, Peru and Japan, 4%. Absolutely not. That indicates that the study survey is incorrect. It didn't change because the people were humans in Brazil or people in Peru. Japan is facing very difficult LGBT civil rights. That's why marriage is so issue oriented. Peru versus other places in South America. I'm going to Colombia. You're going to Costa Rica. The response numbers in Costa Rica and Colombia are far higher than they are in Peru.
Yeah.
The numbers are fluctuating based on those who are in power and are
policies.
Christian religions that are holding it down because it is sex. That's why it varies. Another example of why this is so important, we make the joke, okay, boomer. The study finds that out. Gen Zers are twice as likely to identify as boomers. Why? My sexuality as a boomer is no different than Max Fenning's as a Gen Zer, except the power and the Christian evangelical holding me down, and Max Fenning going, I don't give a fuck what you think.
It's conditioning.
It's completely societal pressure, and that's how and why the numbers are moving. And by the way, all of the surveys are showing that Gen Z identification as LGBT is moved to 20%.
Wow. Which is why we have so much bad legislation coming after us, because they know. They know what's happening.
Exactly what is coming. One final note of statistics that are important here. Wait, the numbers are down 1% from 2021. People all of a sudden, poof, you're no longer a homosexual or a bisexual or a pansexual. Poof, what happened? What happened was the older white men and the evangelicals pounding their fists in places like Florida and Missouri and Montana. And as a result, I don't feel as free to say I am this.
You're retracting.
I'm retracting.
Right.
Correct.
And the numbers go down.
Yeah.
That's what's going on with this.
I don't want to be cynical too, and I'm not going to just throw. I feel like, let me end on a cynical note. I also get very nervous when people start counting us. Like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, in history, that doesn't end well usually.
No,
and like, so I also
you end up
just
with
want
a
to
pink
say,
triangle on
I
your
was
arm.
just going to say that. You just took the words out of my mouth. Yep, we're all going to be marked, and what do they call that when they brand
And
you?
sent to Guantanamo.
Branding, yeah.
Branded.
We're the same everywhere. It's just a question of, are we free enough to be able to say it?
Right.
And will people hear and listen to it? And will the church stop controlling us?
Right.
And will white older men, okay, boomer,
Straight men.
stop trying to manage us?
And the reality is that when you eliminate shame, if we were to one day, really fight and eliminate that shame, we are more than just any of those little numbers can say.
Yeah.
Because the shame, and that's where the sex comes from. There's a lot of shame around sex. And that is a transgenerational thing that continues to affect everybody. Yep. And I'm happy that millennials and Gen Zers are slowly pushing us away from that. Yeah.
They're doing better than my generation.
Oh, yeah.
Is what's happening. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Next, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. FLoatarama, Stonewall Pride Happy Hour kickoff is going to be on June 9th, and it supports LGBTQ plus youth. The signature FLoatarama Flotilla will take place on June 10th, featuring fabulously decorated boats proudly cruising the New River in Fort Lauderdale and the Intercoastal Waterway, with an exclusive experience for 400 celebrants on the magnificent 130-foot yacht Catalina, leading the fleet. FLoatarama is greatly honored that Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz will serve as the Grand Marshal of the Flotilla Parade. FLoatarama 2023 is presented by Hunter's Nightclub here in Wilton Manors, a pillar of South Florida's LGBTQ plus nightlife and philanthropy. FLoatarama will feature Captain's Party at Hunter's Wilton Manors on June 8th, then a welcome happy hour at Hunter's Wilton Manors on June 9th, and then the signature FLoatarama Flotilla on Saturday, June 10th, followed by the Flotilla landing party at the Gallery 1 Hotel. The flotilla, featuring decorated private boats plus chartered vessels with ticketed celebrants, launches from Esplanade Park, that's right next to the Broward Performing Arts Center in downtown Fort Lauderdale, at 1:30 p.m. sharp on Saturday, June 10th, proceeding down the New River and up the Intercoastal Waterway, ending at Sunrise Bay. A lot of fun. I love this because we're officially the only community in America that will be celebrating in Pride Month that starts Pride, Stonewall Pride, with a boat parade, and then the following week a street parade. And I think that is fantastic to celebrate both ways.
Absolutely.
And they go all out when they decorate these boats. You've got to see these incredible boats, and they really go all out, and they have a fabulous time. I can't wait to be a part of it. And I love Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I love that lady.
She needs to be at this table.
Like,
you guys need to have her on the show.
Yeah.
She'd be great.
I mean, I'm happy you said that. I know she's had some issues with the DNC and all these, but she always shows up. Like, that is like for the community, for the LGBTQ community, she is always there. I mean, I don't know how many Prides I've been to where I just see her and she's like hugging everyone. I have so many photos with her where I've hugged her, and I feel like, I feel seen by her. I feel heard by her. I just want to like shout out to the great work she does, and I agree she needs to be here.
Every time I see her, I'm like, hey, Debbie. She's like, hi, whoever you are.
Hi, stranger.
Hey, she's just like me.
She's just like you. I'm going to get Debbie Wasserman a captain's hat, like something really cute to put on.
With some bling on it.
That'd be really
some bling. Absolutely.
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you join us out there. Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, now we finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. Baltic nation elects first openly gay president. On May 31st, Latvian lawmakers picked the country's long-serving popular foreign minister, a strong backer of Ukraine, as its new head of state in a tight vote. The 100-seat Saeima legislature elected Edgar Zrinjevich, the country's top diplomat since 2011, as president to serve for a 4-year term. He received 52 votes, 1 vote more than required to win. Incumbent Egils Levits, Latvia's head of state since 2019, didn't seek re-election. Zrinjevich, who announced in 2014 that he is proudly gay, will be the first openly gay president in the Baltic nations, all former Soviet republics, where all attitudes to sexual minorities have been less tolerant than in Western Europe. It should be noted that LGBTQ plus friendly Stoli vodka is based in Latvia.
I love that part.
Next up, LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Zooey Zephyr travels to Florida and roasts Ron DeSantis. On May 2nd, trans legislator Zooey Zephyr eventually returned to the Montana House and was welcomed in by her colleagues with hugs. Zephyr and her fiancé, Erin recently took a trip to Florida to celebrate Pride Month and took the time to speak out against DeSantis' attacks on the rights of trans and LGBTQ plus people in the state. Zephyr said that it felt more important than ever to show up on DeSantis' home turf and show solidarity with the queer community under threat from the governor's legislative attacks. She said, quote, "If DeSantis continues to push this hateful and discriminatory legislation, he will find out what everyone else like him has found throughout history. They will wind up in footnotes of history because love wins in the end, end quote.
Amen.
Drop the mic.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up sports. Breaking news. Trans climber Erin Parisi approaches the summit of 7 summits in time to celebrate June Pride. American mountaineer Erin Paris is set to become the first trans woman to summit the highest peak on each of the 7 continents. Since 2018, she's climbed 5 of the peaks, including Antarctica, that make up the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each continent, with just Everest and Denali in Alaska still to go. We had an interview with Erin recently on Unapologetically Queer, and currently she is dispatched from the American Alpine Institute's worldwide mountaineering expedition as she is climbing the west buttress of Mount Denali. She has also transcended in Ecuador, Bolivia, and many of the other 7 summits. She is with Team 2 along with other climbers. Team 2 spent another day at Camp 3 at 14,200 feet as of the last update. Remember, the mountain summit is 20,400 feet, and she's carrying both a rainbow flag and a trans flag to hoist at the top of Mount Denali during June Pride Month. They spent the day in camp today in a maintenance and meeting other neighbors. They spotted some good views before calling it a night, and they started this climb on May 20th, and they are expected to reach the summit on June 9th. We'll continue to keep you updated.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Miami LGBTQ plus advisory board celebrates Pride with Where Love is Illegal. June 7th, the LGBTQ plus advisory board will kick off Pride Month at 1 p.m. on June 7th in the lobby of the Stephen P. Clark Center in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, Chairman Oliver G. Gilbert III, and County Commissioner Eileen Higgins will deliver the remarks. Other elected officials will participate in the event. To mark the occasion, the LGBTQ plus advisory board will display the Where Love is Illegal photo exhibition, a collection of photos and stories that document the LGBTQI plus stories of survival and discrimination from 14 countries around the world. The exhibit will remain on display for the entire month of June.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Celebrate the world this week with the best of Getty images. From Asia to Africa, Getty photographers captured the scenes that tell the planet's stories from the last week. Drag queen Miss Tans performs as activists take part in a protest to kick off Pride Month in Quezon City. Pigs make their way around the course during a pig racing activity at Pennywell. Mount Marapi volcano releases hot lava with its reflection seen on Kendall Lake. The sun sets in its alignment with Manhattan streets running east and west in New York City. Indian wrestler Vinesh Phogat with others are detained by the police while attempting to march to India's new parliament just as it was being inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a protest against Burjil Bhushan Singh. Buddhist monks across the wooden bridge on the Kaligaran River during a religious journey in Semarang. A young boy works at a cooking pot workshop in Abobo, Ivory Coast. A volunteer helps light the Memorial Day watchfire in Syracuse. The wife of Mir Tamiri, who was shot dead the previous day, mourns by the grave during a burial at the funeral at Shakit National Cemetery. That's it for today's news for the LGBTQ plus community in the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, we know it is. Share this news with your friends and your family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and in sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Dr. Julio Capo Jr., Sarah Malega, and Pastor Harold Marrero. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
Good night. Happy Pride.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.